One of the best things that you can do with AI is to give it enough context as to who you are, what your goals are, some of the constraints. Because right now, if you just jump into Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, and ask it questions, it'll give you general answers. But the more you can tell it about you and give context, the less context blindness it has.
I think that in so many ways, we have been sold this idea that a startup involves burning the candle at both ends. It involves insane hours. And the only way to be successful is with these mammothly either viral businesses that are very buzzy and you ultimately do huge exits. I think there are more alternatives to that.
Your ability to process information and to be like that really quick, high computational power individual, it starts to fade. And the next generation has that in spades. They're not so chock full of so many different experiences and information, and you lose some of that, but what you gain, crystallized energy or crystallized intelligence or knowledge, and it's kind of wisdom.
It's crazy when you think about like dreams like that, like, oh, I want to travel the world. And it's like, okay, well, how are you going to make money? Like logistically, like that's not possible.
You don't need a personal brand.
There you go.
You need a real life.
You need a real life.
I love this a lot, right? Because I think that we're a lot of obsessed with personal brands right now. And even myself to a certain extent, right? Because I'm building a personal brand. I'm building what I need, right? And I think it is important, but it's very important to separate what a personal brand is or real life is. All right, welcome back to the Unscripted podcast. We got Alex Glimbiewski here, and we got a bunch of stuff that we're about to just dive into. Second time on here, so glad to have you back, man. A bunch has happened, I would say, in the last year now, not only from our side, but from your side, and we're just so excited to dive back in. So let's get into it. Welcome.
Much more are you utilizing AI? And what's like the newest trend that you're seeing that's being utilized for that's making an impact in the workforce?
Gosh, it is so good. So yes, you have the big existential changes coming of how we're going to live our lives in the next decades. But today it has changed how I work, how I live, how I interact with everything. Let me get concrete. One of the best things that you can do with AI is to give it enough context as to who you are, what your goals are, some of the constraints. Because right now, if you just jump into Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, and ask it questions, it'll give you general answers. But the more you can tell it about you and give context, the less context blindness it has. Context blindness is where you ask it a question and it has no clue why you're asking it, what the purpose is, and it'll give you a good sounding answer. But the more poignant you can make it, the better. And so one of the number one ways I use AI is I have, for instance, my group coaching. I have group coaching, individual coaching, but I have my coaching program. And I have trained ChatGPT is what I use just because I used it first. All the different pieces of my program, my pricing, my customer avatar, the value propositions, basically my entire growth strategy, which I used AI to help me develop through workshopping and back and forth. I have loaded that into a ChatGPT project. It is something that you have to pay the $20 a month for. And not endorsing, you can use the free version and get a lot out of it. But if you use a project, you can create kind of like an AI digital workspace where it has so much more context of what you do that now when I say, hey, respond to this email to a client, I don't have to give it a lot of context and it understands because it has so much body of knowledge it can pull from, and it can create a really on point message in not just in context to my program, but also in my own voice and tone of how I speak and write. It has become a co-founder for me.
Welcome back to the Unscripted podcast. We have Sam Sterling here, and I am super excited to dive in. So let's get into it. First, tell me about yourself. Tell me about Subiaco. Is that correct? Subiaco. Thank you. I butchered it.
Subiaco. Subiaco is actually the name of the area that I was born in. And it's quite convenient because living in the US, no one has this as a business name. So it's very easily registered. I think that in so many ways, we have been sold this idea that a startup involves burning the candle at both ends. It involves insane hours. And the only way to be successful is with these mammothly either viral businesses that are very buzzy, revenue aside, or the ones that have raise massive rounds, get lots of time and attention, a lot of notice, and you ultimately do huge exits. And I think there are more alternatives to that. And what I started to develop this thesis around is the idea that there can be much smaller, but much more comfortably profitable and interesting businesses that are solving genuine problems, that are doing it in a way that is uniquely suited to who the founder is. So I divorced myself from the idea of this, like, raising big rounds, doing these sorts of things, which frankly, I'm a foreigner, I'm female, I'm over 40, I'm not a proven founder. Me raising would be difficult on a good day. So once I got over those things, and I got over the idea of this, like, raising a big round, doing that whole, buying into that whole thing, I started to think about the other things that I know better than anyone, the things that I'm particularly good at, and then how I could apply that in new contexts to be able to come up with something that was quite interesting. And in doing that, I landed on a series of business ideas that I thought were quite interesting. I then applied everything that I know about validation, about working through ideas and things like that I've been doing for other companies so many years.
We have Tyrone Hazen, founder of Puffin Drinkware. And if you remember him from season 2, killed it. It's one that we talk about all the time still.
Absolutely.
It was such a monumental part of season 2 for us to dive into that founder-centric origin story. Where did you start? Wins, losses, the whole 9 yards. And so to have you coming back on board, Tyrone, is special to us, and not just us, but the audience as well. So welcome back.
It's cool. I read this book fairly recently. It was recommended to me by a very successful, like, multi-exit entrepreneur in the tech space. And I was telling her about, kind of like this new pursuit of mine and helping other entrepreneurs and in the product space. And she was like, "Oh, you should read this book. It's called Strength to Strength." And I found it, like, it's exactly what we're talking about here. It's that, you have this egoistic pursuit early on in life, and you go, and often it's driven by, and the need to have, like, some financial security, and you're driven to this thing. And at some point, I'm 45 now. And so at some point you kind of, your ability to process information and to be like that really quick, like, high computational power individual, it starts to fade. And the next generation has that in spades. They're not so chock full of so many different experiences and information. And, they've got all this neuroplasticity that's still building in their brains. You end up you lose some of that, but what you gain is what this guy calls crystallized energy or crystallized intelligence or knowledge. And it's kind of wisdom, right? I'm not the guy that can go, like, learn the thing as fast as, I can't keep up with the tech of today like somebody that's in their early 30s can. But I know what questions to ask to get clarity around a problem, whereas they might be the ones to be able to solve that problem if they understand how to, like, really frame the question and understand it. And when do you use this tool versus that tool? They might be better using the tool, but I might know when. And so it was really helpful for me to understand these kind of, like, two curves this guy talks about in this book. And it's what you're saying. And it also, a lot of that shifts. Again, it goes away from anything ego driven and about personal gain. And it becomes, you start focusing more on, what do I want to give? What do I want to leave behind? What do I want to provide to others? And you'll end up with more benefit out of those interactions and those interfaces than you would if you had, gone out and been wildly successful in the same pursuit that you had done previously.
You don't need a personal brand.
There you go.
You need a real life.
You need a real life.
Right. So I love this a lot, right? Because I think that we're a lot of obsessed with personal brands right now. And even myself to a certain extent, right? Because I'm building a personal brand. I'm building what I need, right? And I think it is important, but it's very important to separate what a personal brand is and what real life is, right? And I want to make this distinction. And
what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, for me, honestly, it means to be able to say, okay, hey, I'm going to document, I'm not going to portray. right?
Okay.
I am not going to act. I'm not going to portray this person that I am not on camera. So that way you can think of me as something different, right? I want to be who I am here, off camera, around friends, around family, around random people.
That should be it,
Everywhere,
right?
right?
Yeah.
Well, it should be,
Yeah.
right? But it's not, right? Because you have a lot of these people that are building personal brands around their guru status, right? We're just calling it different now, right? We're not calling them, people don't have marketing gurus in their titles anymore, right? They have like personal branding expert and crap, like that's like this new type of thing that people are doing. But for me, I want to build something of significance, but I also want to have a real life.
Yeah.
Right. If there is a time in my real life that I want to document, I'm going to. Right. But most people, you're not going to see 90% of my life. Right. It's only what I want you to see. But the person that you see is the same person off camera as well.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what it means to me. Right. And I really think that we're in an age where people feel they have this like imposter syndrome, but it's so much more prevalent now. So much more prevalent. The bigger your imposter syndrome, honestly, like the more that you're going to want to portray yourself as this actor in your own life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's worth expounding on, being an actor in your own life.
Can you imagine? We've all been there, right? Where we had to, especially in my early days, and we're trying to build a business and an agency back in my 20s, right? Imposter syndrome was like, I was all in on imposter syndrome. I was like, oh, I got to be the best. I got to make sure that I look big, even though I was a solo guy doing my crap, right? I needed to look big. It's the most exhausting freaking thing you can go through, right? It is exhausting trying to be somebody that you're not in your own freaking life.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not who I am. That's not authentic to me.
Yeah.
Like, why are you trying to portray something that you're not? Now, I do understand. So, like, if you are starting a business and you are the only one, call yourself a dang freelancer. I don't care. Right? Like, most people don't care, right? But if you're portraying yourself as this large company to somebody, that has 100-person business, and you're like, oh, I got like 10 people working for me, like that parity between what you're saying to this person to this 100-person company is a liability, right? There's a reason why a lot of organizations and a lot of enterprise companies work with agencies and work with other companies that are just as big as them.
Yeah.
It's because they have the manpower to be sure that if something happens, it can get taken care of no matter what. The ball's not going to drop. Because when you're an enterprise, right, 100-person company, let's call it a 15-person company, all right? But you're doing work here, right? And you have this person portraying themselves who they are and they're not, right? Like, the hit that you can take from a brand reputation, from a revenue, from sales perspective is a lot deeper than this dude over here that's portraying themselves in their own life, who they're really just not. When out of the gate, you can be like, hey, like, I am a freelancer, right? Call yourself what you are. Or, I am just starting out. I am entry level, right? I am mid level, right? You don't have to always be the senior person in the room.
Yeah. Christine, this is her third guest appearance on the podcast, and now the new iteration of what it is now, Unscriptd. So, Christine, I'm so stoked to have you back here.
I am so excited that you invited me back.
I don't know if it's probably a problem sometimes because I am so introvert, but like, for instance, if you would have been like, hey, like, we're not gonna be at a podcast today, I would have been like, I would have kicked my shoes off. You know what I mean? I would have went and like recluse somewhere. I wouldn't have been like upset about it. I would have been totally down with rescheduling. But at the same time, I'm so excited to be here and doing this too. So I don't know. It's a weird place to be, but it's also, I do feel like I'm at peace with who I am, the friend group that's around me at the moment. And like, I mean, look at this. I was looking at a before picture of like what the podcast looked like. It was so dingy. I need to text it over to you. It was so bad. But
I love that. I love the growth. It's crazy when you think about like dreams like that, like, oh, I want to travel the world. And it's like, okay, well, how are you going to make money? Like, I have a house, like, logistically, like, that's not possible. I mean, it could be possible, but I don't know. So I've sat on it. I tried selling it like 4 times and never sold it, which I think there's a reason for it, because this year my business has kind of taken off and I'm like, what if I get a business loan and I finally do this project? I have always said I always wanted to own a home in Dallas area. I've wanted to own Airbnbs and stuff like that. I love decorating. And so, yeah, that's what the Airstream is becoming. It's an Airbnb / studio slash like just oasis little getaway that I'm gonna have on my property.
That is so crazy.
I don't actually like, I wouldn't technically have it home. I would just like float between all my Airbnbs and like kind of let the work do itself. That's my goal. I'm speaking it into existence because I've been like talking about it for so long.
I just have this desire, maybe it's like nomadism, but like I have this desire to just be free of concrete, like something holding me down to like one place. Cause I mean, I've moved over 30 times in my life, and as much as I would have loved to have like that 15-year, 20-year family home, you have all these memories and that sort of thing. Something about being fresh, like moving and seeing something fresh stimulates, I think maybe as a natural creative. I don't know if maybe that's a commonality that a lot of creatives kind of share.